Hello and welcome to the latest in our series of Let's Talk activities, brought to you by Elevator, one of Scotland's leading business support and entrepreneurial organisations, and supported by the Royal Bank of Scotland. And once again, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by evolutionary biologist Dr. Mairi Macleod.
Hi there.
Mairi. Hi, Mairi. How are you? It's great to see you.
Yeah, great to see you again too.
And I can't believe that we're coming to the end of our series. Time has just flown. It's been absolutely fascinating. And today we're going to be looking at the issue of hormonal intelligence, and specifically a topic that I think for many years was unspoken. And now people are shedding more light on it and there are more discussions around it. And that's the topic of the menopause. So first of all, why do you think it's important to talk about menopause in the context of women being entrepreneurs?
Well, I think there's a lot of confusion about what menopause actually is and what effect it's having on our bodies and behaviour. We're used to talking about the symptoms, and we will talk about that just now too. But it also has an effect on our relationships, and that includes in a business setting. So it's important to look at that too. I also want to show that menopause is not about getting old and throwing in the towel. Biologically speaking, it's actually a time of life when, we're opened up to new adventures. It's a very productive time of life. So I think that's quite a positive, optimistic message to get out there.
Fabulous. So what exactly is menopause from a biological perspective?
Well, when we go through menopause, our ovaries sort of wind down their production of the hormone estrogen. And so that means that we wind down our periods as well. So estrogen is a hormone that's connected most closely with reproduction. So all matters reproduction. So it stimulates our ovaries to produce an egg so that we can get pregnant. It prepares our uterus for pregnancy. It prepares our breasts for breastfeeding. So menopause is the time, it marks the time when we're not going to have any more babies, obviously. But the hormone estrogen does lots more too. It makes us more feminine looking and attractive to men. So that's around reproduction as well, obviously. But it also makes us more competitive with other women, because that's part of reproductive success as well. So it has all these different effects. And so when menopause happens, these kind of things change. And so we have to be aware of that.
Okay. So let's start then with the subject of femininity. What happens at menopause?
Well, just to give you an idea of the effect that estrogen has on our femininity, it basically makes us more feminine. So women with high estrogen levels tend to be more feminine looking in terms of their facial appearance, big eyes and fine features. And also, estrogen gives us that sort of feminine hourglass figure, akin to sort of Beyonce or Kim Kardashian or so on. Mind you, Kim Kardashian, it might not be all down to estrogen, actually.
Theirs might have had other help.
Yeah, I think you had help. So at menopause, we become a bit less feminine looking because our estrogen levels obviously drop off. And that means that we don't have such a feminine appearance. And we get that kind of annoying thickening around our waist and stuff like that, which is really frustrating and hard to get rid of. So this might feel like a concern for some women. It might make them feel less attractive as they get older. But there are things we can do about it to become more feminine looking. This is something that women have done since the beginning of time. Things like the most obvious thing to do is wearing makeup, because that actually mimics the effects of estrogen. So making our eyes look bigger, our lips look fuller, smoother skin and so on. And we can wear different clothes to, like the push-up bra and the little belt and the high heels. These are all things that actually emphasize our femininity and, make us sort of look artificially through artificial means like we've got higher estrogen. But there's a lot more to being attractive, even physically, than femininity, obviously. And, things like attitudes matter. So people in more egalitarian societies put less importance on feminine looks in women. Also, guys who are, more sexist and more likely to objectify women, they tend to be the ones that put a high level of priority on stereotypically feminine looks. So basically, there are pros and cons to femininity, and so I don't think we have to worry too much about it.
Okay, fabulous. So let's look at the subject of estrogen and competition amongst women. How does that work?
Well, our estrogen levels affect how competitive we are with other women. If you think about it, competition with other women is important for our reproduction because we have to get various things to look after our kids. We have to compete for shelter, food, allies, mates. And so, well, don't get me wrong, women are often incredibly supportive of each other, but there are times when we have to compete for the things we need. And, we also tend to be very sensitive to other women showing off their estrogen signals, aka, sexiness and femininity and so on. But basically what happens in younger women who are, who haven't reached menopause yet, lots of things change around the time of month when our estrogen levels are high, when we're ovulating. That's basically at day 14 of our 28-day menstrual cycle. And that's the time when we can get pregnant. So women tend to dress a bit more provocatively, bit more skin on show, they get more flirty. Often this will be under the radar of consciousness. It's not, necessarily something people know about. But we're also more likely to get more bitchy to other women during that time as well. Again, probably without realizing it. And a series of studies by Christina Durante, who's a psychologist at the University of Texas, she managed to show that women will make decisions and make choices when they are ovulating and at high estrogen that are perhaps detrimental to them if it means that other women will be worse off than they are. So, for example, there was one experiment where they offered car prizes to women, and the women who were ovulating were more likely to choose a lesser value car for themselves if it meant that other women would get less than they did. So, it's a bit crazy. Sorry, go on.
On you go, Mairi.
So, I mean, this stuff can obviously have quite a big impact in a work situation. We might find ourselves making the wrong decisions for the wrong reasons. And also there's that thing about, if women are competing on attractiveness, if they do that in the workplace, that could have detrimental effects. If you kind of make yourself look more sort of sexy and feminine, you might get more attention in the workplace from men, although not necessarily the kind of attention you want, but it's going to really piss off other women. It's really aggravating to other women when women behave like that, especially if they're seen to be kind of getting forwards in an unfair way as a result.
So tell us what happens at menopause when we stop having these estrogen peaks?
Well, we stop doing this stuff. Women become a lot less competitive with other women. There are exceptions, with the queen bees and such like, but generally it's the case. And that's really good news because it means that we're more likely to be able to form supportive alliances with other women, which is a great thing. We can also potentially become better at decision making, not kind of being influenced so much by our hormones. But actually, I want to just point out that it's not just women that are affected by hormones. We're not these like crazy hormonal beings like the media like to suggest. Men are affected by their hormones too, just as much as we are, if not more. Testosterone cycles daily, not just monthly like estrogen does. And men are obviously really affected by that. And, I think you'll agree that probably quite a large proportion of the prison population is where it is because of the actions of testosterone. So, it's not just women that are hormonal.
Fascinating. So at menopause, we become less feminine looking, potentially less competitive with other women. Anything else? What about the symptoms?
Well, there are definitely advantages, like less competition and also, no periods and, no need for contraception and all that. But obviously it's not all a bed of roses. We have a whole bunch of symptoms that come with, this drop in estrogen. It's hardly surprising really because estrogen affects, lots of parts of our bodies and brains. So, the fact that we're affected when it gets switched off is not that surprising. But it does vary massively among women. But we shouldn't be just putting up with these symptoms. The most kind of obvious and effective way of getting rid of symptoms entirely in a lot of cases is replacing the lost estrogen. So that's hormone replacement therapy, or HRT. And that is the most effective way of getting rid of the symptoms. And I can definitely vouch for that myself.
Okay, but there's been quite a lot of negative press about the risks associated with taking HRT. What's the evidence like regarding that?
Yeah, I mean, back in the early 2000s, there were a bunch of studies done that seemed to suggest that, the risk of various cancers like breast cancer would skyrocket with the use of HRT. And so, a lot of doctors stopped prescribing it, and it really put a lot of women off having HRT. But there's been a whole pile more research done since then that has shown up flaws in the original research. And basically, it's now accepted that there are far, far less risks involved in taking HRT, and there are lots and lots of benefits. There's still a very slight higher risk of breast cancer, say, but I think we need to get into perspective. If you have a higher risk of breast cancer, or a bigger increase in risk of breast cancer by drinking a couple of glasses of wine a night, or being overweight than you do if you have HRT. And HRT also protects against a lot of diseases like heart disease, diabetes, osteoporosis, dementia. So it has a lot of really good benefits. And in fact, there was one study that showed that women who took HRT for 18 years had lower mortality from all causes, including cancer. So it's really good stuff. I mean, obviously you need to talk to your doctor about it, but I think a lot of women are put off it unnecessarily. So, yeah.
It's reassuring to hear, Mairi. Thank you. So how do we deal with things in a work context if we are having symptoms?
I think the key here is to understand that women vary massively in how they're affected by menopause. So if you're having issues, make sure your colleagues understand what you're going through and what your needs are and what support you need. But also, realize that if there are women in your team that are going through this, that you need to listen to what their experiences are, because they might be completely different from yours. I think a lot of women find this sort of stuff difficult to talk about still, but it is getting easier as more and more people. There's been lots more discourse around menopause in the last couple of years, and so hopefully people are a bit better informed, and it's not getting brushed under the carpet so much. So it's about communicating your needs.
Yeah, and there's certainly some amazing podcasts that are available at the moment where this is examined in a lot of detail. So it's fantastic that we're having these open discussions much more easily than we used to. So we've talked about the symptoms, but might seem like a fundamental daft question, but why do we even have to go through this? Why do we even have to have menopause at all?
Yeah, the evolutionary reason. What's the ultimate function? Well, other animals, they just carry on having babies till they drop. Almost all other animals. Most evolutionary scientists subscribe to the grandmother hypothesis to explain why it is that humans don't carry on having babies till the end of our life. And that hypothesis is about, it says that we do more for getting our genes into future generations by, stopping having babies when we get to an age where, we don't have so much chance of giving birth to and raising a healthy child, and then switching our energy to helping our grandchildren because they carry our genes too. So that completely makes sense. But the benefits aren't just about looking after kids. It's also enabled us to contribute to society in a different way. So that's...
Yeah, and we've had that conversation previously about this in relation to whales. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, the only animals, apart from humans, that are known to have menopause are two species of whale. So I'll explain what I mean by talking about one of those. So killer whales, or orcas as they're also known as, they live in pods, groups of whales, and they're led by older females, the matriarchs. And these older females, they live until they're 90-ish, but they stop having babies, they stop having calves when they're about 40. So they have a huge long period of life when they're not reproducing. So that's menopause. And the reason for this is that these older whales are kind of repositories of ecological knowledge. They've learned throughout their lives where all the food sources are, where the fish are, and sort of mapped it all out. And so they can benefit their their offspring by kind of imparting this information. So it's, they need to be sticking around. So when whales get older, the females leave their pod to reproduce in other pods, but the males stay in the group where they're born. And what's been shown in the research is that males who have their mothers, their older mothers in the pod with them, are much more likely to survive and have more offspring. So they do much better with their old mums around, to give them the information.
That's fantastic. And there's something similar going on with humans as well, then.
Well, yeah, that's definitely what seems to be going on. So if we look at humans living today that are closest to our ancestral state, so that's hunter-gatherers, again, older women, older females are the sort of repositories of the ecological knowledge. They know where to find the food, and they actually contribute far more food to the communal pot than they consume themselves. They know where everything is. Clearly, in our sort of modern environment in the Western world, things are a bit different, but we can harness our wisdom and life experience and productivity that this part of our life is for, and it's a great opportunity to sort of start new projects, new adventures, like starting a new career or starting a new relationship, and becoming an entrepreneur. It's a perfect time of life to do it. And that's pretty much what I've been doing, actually. In the last year or so, during lockdown, I've been working on developing an online course for women over 50 who are looking to get, have a great new relationship. So this is actually something I've been through myself. I was a single mum for a long time and on my own. And I realized that I could use the science, my scientific knowledge, to sort of change strategy and do things differently. So I've developed this course, and I've found the love of my life as a result. And so now my mission is to help other women do the same. So I've developed this course and it's been going great. So I'm really happy about that. So, I've started a new business, and it's all about helping other women in midlife to, find a relationship after 50. So
that's amazing. And for women that are interested in this, Mairi, where can they find out about your course?
Oh, yeah. So my website that's just come up there, datingevolve.com, that has all the information about my courses and my work. I'm also going to be running a free webinar on the 26th of June. So I'd love it if anyone fancies coming along to that. You'll find the link on the website, and I also might be able to put the link for the webinar in the podcast post as well. So I'll do that. So I'd be delighted to see people along at the webinar on the 26th. That'd be great. And it's called Getting Ready for Successful Dating for Women Over 50.
Fantastic. So lots of new opportunities at menopause, and I guess all these ventures are much more possible for us nowadays than they were in our grandmother's day. Yeah,
well, I mean, a couple of generations ago, women were kind of ignored when they got to this sort of age, weren't they? And they didn't have much financial independence. But, now we've got a lot more freedom to pursue our dreams. And the point is, in terms of what this stage of life was biologically designed for, what it evolved for, it's the start of a whole new opportunity. We're freed from, the shackles of reproduction and looking after kids or looking after other people. And now it's a time that we can do stuff for ourselves, that we can pursue our own adventures. So that's great. And if you're anything like me, you might have been spending the last couple of decades looking after kids, and or others, and now is the time that you can do something different.
Yes, there's plenty more good stuff to look forward to after menopause, and I guess for a lot of the women that are watching our discussion, they might be thinking about a business, and that might be the opportunity to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think getting older is a state of mind. We don't have to accept being old. I was having a couple of glasses of red wine a while back with a friend of mine, and we were talking together about how we feel as if we're just at the start of things in a lot of respects. We've got so much more to do, and we both decided that we're going to live until we're 120. And yeah, it might not be exactly realistic, but we're living longer and longer these days, and if we assume that we're going to live that long, we're not going to slow down anytime soon. Quite the reverse. My feeling is the best is yet to come in terms of work and everything. I think it's so much a question of attitude. You can curl up in your granny clothes and your slippers and let the world go by, or you can get out and kick the world's ass. So that means doing what you can to stay healthy, get your exercise. And I think crucially it means maintaining your social relationships, making sure that you keep in touch with everyone, and that keeps you strong. I'm not suggesting, obviously, that we can maintain the same energy levels as we had when we were 30. We might need to do things in a different way, but that doesn't mean, that we have to give up having an impact on the world. Quite the reverse. So I would suggest get out there and take the kick-ass option. That's what I'm doing.
It's a fantastic message to leave us with, Mairi, and I think you're such an inspiration as well. Just get out there and do it, and at a time when you can actually focus on yourself, which is brilliant. So for all the women that are watching, I just wanted to say thank you, for your insight. It's been the last 4 podcasts have been amazing, and I think you've left us on an absolute high. So thank you so much, Mairi, for your time. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, an absolute pleasure as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Mairi. So yeah, thanks again to Mairi, another fascinating discussion. And if you want to find out more about the Let's Talk activities, don't forget to check out our Facebook group. Check out Elevator's LinkedIn posts where you'll find more details of what we're up to. And if there's any topics you want to see us covering, then please get in touch. But in the meantime, be brave and kick some ass. Thanks.